Okay, Bismillah. So for those who are joining us, sorry about what happened earlier. We've had technical difficulties and we've just been trying for the last hour to make this happen. So Alhamdulillah, we've managed to make it work. Inshallah, it will continue through. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Sumaya.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah, Sister Sama. How are you?
I'm fine, Alhamdulillah. How are you?
I'm fine, alhamdulillah. Glad we had a plan B that worked, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'll introduce you to our members for those who haven't heard of you before, because we are a global network, and so you've had lots of experience within the US and Pakistan, and I know you have a lot of members who, mashallah, are very close to you, and inshallah they'll be viewing this as well. So I'll just read your bio and then we'll get started with the questions.
Sure.
Okay, so Sister Sumaya Flower has enjoyed a 35-year career in Islamic education. She was privileged to work on the development and implementation of the Tarbiyah project with Brother Dawood Tawhidi, Allah Yarhamu, and the staff of Crescent Academy International for 10 years. Prior to that, she helped to establish several Islamic schools in New York and New Jersey, including Al-Ghazali and Razi School. She has served as a board member from the Islamic Schools League of America, the Islamic Education Foundation of New Jersey, and the Muslim Teachers Council. Sister Sumaya is currently the director of Sitara School and Teachers Institute at Sitara Mother Child Center. Both projects of Sitara Trust, a registered non-for-profit in both the USA and Pakistan. In 2018, Sister Sumaya published a spiritual memoir entitled Eye of the Heart, Journey to My Soul. And Sister Sumaya currently divides her time between North America and Pakistan, but also loves to travel to other countries when Sister Sumaya gets a chance. So we're going to talk about the establishment of Sitara School in Pakistan and a bit about your past experience. We'll get started with your past experience with the late Dawood Tawhidi, Allah Yarhamu. So you've been an educator in the US for many years at the notable Islamic school, working with Brother Dawood. Can you begin by telling us a bit about your experience at Crescent International and specifically how the Tarbiyah curriculum model worked?
Sure. Okay. So I started working at Crescent Academy International, which is in Canton, Michigan, in 2000. And I worked there with Brother Dawood for 10 years, rahimullah, on a project called the Tarbiyah Project. And by the time I got to Crescent, I had been active in Islamic education already for about 15 years. And I'd been involved with other curriculum development initiatives, including one that I did myself as part of my master's program. My master's is in curriculum and administration. So Brother Dawood had been working on the Tarbiyah project for like 20 years. This was his life's work. And he was still working on it, you could say, up until the day that he passed away, subhanAllah. So when I got to Crescent, he handed me this document and he said, read this. And it was quite long and it was full of graphs and charts because he's a very visual thinker and I'm not. So I said, oh my God, how am I going to digest this? But I read it over a weekend and I thought it was quite amazing. Actually, I thought it was the most comprehensive program for Islamic education or integrated Islamic education in any school I'd ever been in. So I was really happy to be a part of it. Because it's thematic instruction at its best. That's how I would describe the Tarbiyah project. Mm-hmm.
So I think many people haven't come across the Tarbiyah project. I'll post a link to, I've come across a document where it shares the vision and a bit about the project.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us a bit more information about how Tarbiyah project works?
How it worked? Is that what you're asking?
Yep.
Okay. Well, it's thematic instruction, so it's organized around themes, and they're very broad themes. They'll remind you a little bit of something like the the IB curriculums, how they have very broad themes, and you can plug really any subject matter into those themes. So on one level, those themes are called powerful ideas. And the powerful ideas of this curriculum are God consciousness, noble character, useful knowledge, healthy living, human relations, daily living, and public service. So as a school, we would start out at the beginning of the year talking about God consciousness. And one of the best things about that was eliciting that feeling of awe and wonder, that feeling of subhanallah, when we see some amazing creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And keeping that curiosity for learning, that love of learning alive, through being aware that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created everything in this universe according to patterns and systems that we can actually see when we look within ourselves and when we look without at the universe. So the themes operate on both a microcosmic level, like a human level, and a macrocosmic level, the universal level. A lot of times with Islamic schools, we try to manipulate knowledge to fit into small, narrow categories of Islamic thought. But with the Tarbiyah project, you're not doing that. These are very broad categories. So virtually any content knowledge can fit into them. That's the beauty of it.
Because ultimately all knowledge belongs to Allah, I suppose. And so I think what we do in Islamic schools is very unnatural in terms of the way we segment Islamic studies and Quran away from the other sciences, so math, science, English, and so on. Whereas with this project, it's very holistic and you're incorporating more content within an Islamic pedagogy framework, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And I use this now at Sitara, which I can tell you about a little later.
Yes, please. Okay, so moving on, tell us a bit about your journey from the US to Pakistan, and what was your impetus to starting Sitara School?
Sure. Okay, well, as my children were growing up, I have 4 children, and as the 2 youngest were finishing high school, I was telling myself that when they finished high school, I would start traveling. And I knew that the best way I could afford to do that would be by teaching English. So I got a TEFL certificate so I could teach English as a foreign language, and my plan was to travel.
Yeah.
In 2010, I was resigning from Crescent Academy, and at that time I also met a Pakistani Muslim who was living in Boston, and I remarried.
Inshallah.
So I basically followed him to Pakistan. He said, "Why don't you come here for a couple of months for an orientation visit?" So I did that. And, I had worked for 30 years, so all of a sudden I wasn't working. And after a month or so of not working, I was bored. I just didn't know what to do with myself, right? So I started looking around and I said, I was planning to teach English, so why don't I at least volunteer to teach in some of these schools that are around? So there are tons of schools here. We call them shops. They're small private schools that teach English medium instruction, so-called. And most of them were happy to have a native speaker of English who was going to come in and volunteer and teach. So I tried doing conversational English at a couple of these schools in my neighborhood. And while I was walking back and forth to the schools, I noticed there were a lot of children who were not in school. They were working on the street. They were dressed in very ragged clothing. They didn't have shoes. And they were either picking up trash or they were cutting hay and, with a sickle, like cutting grasses and stuff, which you feed to animals. So I started asking my husband, how come there are so many children in Pakistan that don't go to school? Don't they have to? Isn't it a law? Because I was thinking, okay, in the US we have laws about these things, but in Pakistan apparently there isn't a law. And he explained to me that many of them were refugees from different parts of the country or from Afghanistan, and they didn't have proper papers to go to school, and that also the schools are not really free here. Even if it's a government school, you still have to purchase your textbooks, your uniform. There are fees involved, and these particular families wouldn't be able to pay those fees. So I started making friends with these kids, and they followed me home one day, and I gave them lots of water bottles for recycling, and they were very happy. So they kept coming back, and one thing led to another. And before I was leaving, because I was only there 4 months on this orientation visit, before I was leaving, I had a dream. And in the dream, there were hundreds of kids in my courtyard, and they were playing and laughing, and some of them were reading books. So I just woke up and I said to my husband, I need to start a school for these children. I'm an educator. What am I doing? I have to start a school. So he thought that was a good idea too. He said, Amin, I said, Amin. I went home and I started raising money for the school. So I was raising money, and meanwhile he was getting desks and whiteboards and crayons and things that we needed. And that's how we started the school. So we just, Alhamdulillah. We started it in our house, just 20 kids. And now we have about 280 kids and a regular campus and a girls' high school, some other projects, alhamdulillah. So, I really feel that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just sent us the right people to help us, get going with this. Some of my original teachers that I had from the beginning are still with us. And, they're running the school now. They're the principals. And it's a wonderful group of people to work with, mashallah.
Amazing. So inspirational, my goodness. Can you tell us a bit about the community, the parents, the students, the colleagues you work with? What's a day schedule like at the school? What opportunities would these children have if it weren't for Sitara?
Well, this community where I'm sitting right now, and you might be hearing some of the street noises. Can you hear the vendors in the street? They call out. It's wild. To me, it's wild, So it's a small town. It's been growing a lot since I came here, but there's no such thing as city planning. So the streets are very crowded. They're mostly dirt. Things are not extremely well organized. There's a business part of town, and there are what's called the Kachi Abadi. Basically means the word means unbaked. Basically, they're ramshackle types of huts or shacks that are sort of thrown together. They're cinder block, and they're like little cubicles, and hundreds of families could live in there in these little cubicles. They don't have running water. They don't have electricity. So it's it's almost like living outdoors with some tarp over your head, basically. Yeah. Most of our students come from there.
Wow.
So, in fact, now that we have the Mother-Child Center, that's where our mothers come from. And also, we've been attracting the mothers who are housekeepers around the neighborhood, and their children now are coming to the Mother-Child Center, which is our second school, really. As time went on, though, since we have computers in the school, and I tend to use good quality materials, good books, good resources, we've also attracted a business class. So now we have sort of a mixed population in the school of people who can afford to pay some fees and people who absolutely can't afford to pay anything. So it's kind of a mix. Sociologically, we have a mix of children. And that's actually good. Huh?
It's good to have that diversity, I think, for all students. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
It works to their
advantage. I think for the future of the country, it's also very good because that breaks down some of the prejudices that exist,
Yeah. You're right. Yeah, mashallah. So then where do you see Sitara in the next 5 years? Can you tell us, before that, just a bit about the mother-child program or the school?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, now we have 3 new projects that we've started over the past 2 years. What we decided to do, instead of just expanding on the front of children's education by opening more schools, we thought that we should focus more on community development, that would probably have more of an impact. So the Mother-Child Center, the main reason we opened it, when we first opened the school, we lost a lot of children who were really used to the street life. They were not ready to come and sit down in a classroom and follow a schedule and wear a uniform and be clean and do their homework and all of that. You know, there were some of those children we made into students over the years, but a lot of other ones just left because it was too formal, I guess, for them. It just wasn't what they could handle, you know? So we opened the Mother-Child Center for those children and for their mothers, because most of the mothers who live in that Kachia body, you know, I'm not trying to stereotype, but in general, they're lucky if they have a third grade education. They got married when they were 14 or 15 or 16. They have many children and no skills. So when they come to the Mother-Child Center, there's the opportunity to learn sewing or other crafts that people like to do, crocheting and knitting and making things, you know, just artistic, expressing their creativity. There's the opportunity to socialize with other women outside of your household. There's free childcare. There's a free medical clinic. And we started a basic literacy program now with Allama Iqbal Open University, where they can actually earn a diploma in 2 or 3 years by studying Urdu and English and Islamiyat and, you know, just the basics of education. So that's why we have the Mother-Child Center.
Yeah. And how has the response been like from the mothers?
It's wonderful. Actually, this is the first week of the new term because the calendar is quite different in Pakistan. School year usually ends in March, and then the new school year starts in April. And then they take off for summer break. So it's different. I'm not sure how it is in Australia, but in the United States, school ends in June. They have off 3 months for summer. They go back to school in September.
No, we've got so we have 2 weeks coming up. So we'll have a 2-week break coming up, and then a 10-week or 11-week schooling term, another 2-week break, and then again another schooling term, and then a 6-week break.
I see. So every country has a different pattern. But the way it is here, this is the new term. So this week has been all about registration in both locations, and both schools are full to capacity. So yeah, the response has been very good. We also now have we also have started a farm, Sitara Farms and Orchards, which is the newest project, self-sustainable organic farming, trying to introduce some healthier methods of farming into the community, and also trying to have a situation where eventually the school can be sustained with the funds from the farm. Inshallah. That's a long-term, that's like a 5-year goal. Also, we have our girls' high school, and you know, we look forward to graduating those girls and having them go to university and providing scholarships for them. So establishing a scholarship fund is also part of the 5-year plan.
Mashallah. So I'm assuming within the primary years, it's still co-ed. You've got both boys and girls?
Yeah. Up to 5th class, it's boys and girls together. After 5th class, the boys generally go to the government school, and the girls stay with us because there is no government school for them.
Oh, wow.
It's in the next town, and transportation is a problem. Most people here travel by family motorbike, and if there are 5 people in your family, there's not that much room on the bike in the morning. No. So if you're the girl, you may not go to school. Yeah. So our interest is to keep them in school as long as possible, you know. So
I'm just say it again as well. The way you map out what's priority for you, because you acknowledge that the way you for them, but an option for girls, so you prioritize that and, making sure that you have a girls' high school. And then moving on to sustainability and the way you can keep the school running through running a farm, subhanAllah, and so that you can generate it back into the school. That is just phenomenal.
Inshallah. Inshallah, inshallah. It needs a lot of dua, and the farm needs a lot of hard work. It's just getting started.
Definitely. Very exciting, though. Well, then, how has your experience with the Tarbiyah curriculum influenced, if it has influenced, your work in Sitara? And I'm pretty sure it has, because I remember you had posted, when we first opened up this group, you had posted a small school tour, which I absolutely loved, and I hope you can do that again for us, because a lot of people missed that. So if you send it to me, I can post it so everyone can see. But I'm pretty sure you had linked Tarbiyah outcomes to, I think they had plants outside of the school, and it was I think you've frozen. Oh, we're doing so well. Yeah, it's frozen. So what I'll do is I'll try and get a part 2 up and running as soon as possible, hopefully now. But if not, then tomorrow, inshallah. But I'll see what I can do now to continue on the conversation.